Record. I beat you to it. Okay. Um, so last night, I want to just give a quick review of what we spoke about last night and then take it further tonight. And I think that I wish I had an hour tonight because I have, or this morning, for those in Eretz Yisrael, because I think that there's some important things that we have to cover for this Rosh Hashanah. As I mentioned yesterday, no matter where we are for Rosh Hashanah, whether we're in Eretz Yisrael in lockdown, whether we're in America, not in lockdown, but in strange circumstances. And, we're living in a place that takes Corona very seriously. Shuls all shuls. Davening is different. The style of service is different. The number of people that are going to be in shul. All the things that we're used to, all the constants and the absolutes for what Rosh Hashanah means for us. All those things are really uprooted and shaken. And for many people, they're not going to make it to shul in Rosh Hashanah. For many people, they're afraid of being in crowds. And when I say afraid, I don't mean that in a negative way, but there are people that have to be concerned about their health, and that being in crowds is not the right place for them to be. And therefore, rightly so, are not going to be in shul this Rosh Hashanah. But that doesn't mean that it's not Rosh Hashanah. And it doesn't mean that all the stuff that's going on in Rosh Hashanah in the heavens are not taking place as regular. God's not necessarily wearing a mask. But what God does on Rosh Hashanah is what God does every year on Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, what we have to accomplish on Rosh Hashanah is what we have to accomplish every year on Rosh Hashanah. And the truth is that the ideas that I am presenting, I presented last night, presented today, I would present the same ideas in any year on Rosh Hashanah. I would just present them perhaps in a different context. And as I'm going to show you tonight, this year has a context that no year that many of us in our history has ever had. And there are things that we're going to accomplish this Rosh Hashanah that we can never do. We talked yesterday about using the gift of prayer to be able to connect to God. And that we recognize that tefillah is an actual gift. It's an actual matana. It's a present that God has given us. To be able to open our hearts and to be able to connect to Him, which is really the essence of davening. Again, I reiterate, davening is not reading. Davening is not chanting. Davening is not reciting. Davening is connecting together. And to do that, we spoke about last night that you have to have sincerity. You have to have a feeling of urgency. You have to have a sense that there is, in fact, no other place to turn to. That the only place that you have to turn is to turn to God. And that we have to have a sense that we are part of a cloud, that we are part of a nation, we are part of a people. We're not just standing alone, because even though we might be in our own homes, we might be in our own little world on Rosh Hashanah, God looks at us as we're part of a larger world. And He sees us as part of a cloud, as part of a congregation, as part of a people, as part of a nation. We spoke about davening for other people, stepping outside of ourselves and stepping outside of our own pain and our own trauma to be able to daven on behalf of others. And that we know that our rabbis tell us that kol mispal ba'ad chavero, that anybody who davens for other people, so then their tefillos, their prayers are heard in a very special and precious way. We spoke about the idea of being nosei ba'olim chavero, of carrying the burden along with others, of recognizing that there are others that are having difficulty, others in pain, and to be able to be sensitive to that and to be able to carry that along with them. I want to add to that tonight. And I want to tell over a famous chazal that we know that the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, that when he went into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur, he would daven. And one of the things that he davened for is that he would ask God not to listen to the prayers of the overei drachim, of the people that were traveling, of the wayfarers. There were people that were traveling on the road. After Sukkot, they were going to be going home. They were going to be traveling. It was going to be the time where the nation was crying out and asking God to send rain. And the people that were traveling were going to be calling out to God not to make it rain because they were traveling on the road. And therefore the Kohen Gadol said to God, please don't listen to the prayers of the wayfarers. Don't listen to the prayers of the people that are traveling. And as incredible as that sounds, it's the strangest thing in the world. The high priest goes into the Holy of Holies and he can ask God for anything. He can pray on behalf of the entire Jewish nation. He can pray on behalf of the world. He can ask God to heal all the ills of the world and all the pain that the world is in. And what does the Kohen Gadol ask for? He asks that God shouldn't listen to the prayers of the wayfarers. Who were the wayfarers? They were just a bunch of people that were traveling on the road. What's the big deal? Why would you think that those prayers were more powerful than the honest farmers who were crying out to God and saying, God, please take care of the Jewish people. Please give them parnasa. Give them a Barech Aleinu Hashanah, as is blessed this year. That those people that are praying with sincerity, we have to worry, that we have to ask God to counteract. In the Holy of Holies, the high priest has to ask God to counteract the prayers of the wayfarers. It's a very sad but real truth that sometimes, even when we're praying for rain, and even when we're praying for something that we benefit from directly, from something that is important in our lives, we unfortunately tend to just pray. We tend to just recite and to say. We daven mincha every day, we daven shachris every day, but we don't always feel something. Very often we can even say words that are so powerful, and we just say them and recite them. We just do our job. But when a person is traveling on the road and he doesn't want it to rain, and he turns to God and he says to him, God, hold back the rains, he's davening with such sincerity and with such meaning and with such power that those tefillos are the most powerful, the strongest tefillos that a person can utter. When the wayfarer davens, he's got it over everybody else because he really means what he says. This year, when we ask God to show his presence in the world, when we ask God to give us mercy, when we ask God for Rachmanas, Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, do it for your sake. The level of sincerity, the level of power that we have in our tefillah is off the charts. Because there isn't a person on this screen that wants life to continue the way it is right now. There isn't a person on this screen, even if you're not the most social. And even if being a little socially distant for some is a shtickle bracha, being a little bit recluse and being a little bit off the path, that's not such a big tzara. One day of it is okay. 1 week of it I can handle. But 5 months of it, there isn't a person who hasn't reached their limit. There isn't a person who has to conduct life behind a mask, who is not looking for Yeshua, not looking for salvation. You want to know what real prayer is? It's what we have the opportunity to do this year. Because everything that we say this year is packed with incredible power. And recognize that. Recognize the sincerity, because recognize the pressure that we're under, the feeling, the raw feeling that we have, the fear, the worry for our lives, the worry for other people's lives, the worry for our elders, our old parents, worry for our own selves. Put that into your davening, and there is not a thing that God is not going to listen to. We say every Rosh Hashanah, the gates are open. This year they are flung wide. You have a pain in your heart, turn to the Ribono Shel Olam this year. Because you have a fuel, you have an energy that is packing behind your tefillos. And God listens to that energy. So do a little davening this Rosh Hashanah. Not a little praying, not a little reading, not a little chanting, but a little davening. If you're in shul, or if you're not in shul, take one or two of the prayers that we recite every year. Look through the machzor and pick out a prayer that you know you just say and you never really plumbed the depth of it, and focus on that prayer. We would love to think that we could focus on an entire davening. We are human beings, most of us endowed with the attention span of a goldfish. We don't have the ability to stay inside and focused on a tefillah for 4 hours, for 5 hours, for 6 hours. But we do have the ability to set a goal of taking a prayer. Take coronashana tokef and read through coronashana tokef. Read those notes on the bottom, not just because you're trying to zone out, but read those notes on the bottom in the Art Scroll Machzor that tells the story of Rabbi Amnon of Mayence. Read the words and ask yourself, what do these words mean? What is it saying to me? What was Rabbi Amnon trying to convey to me? What was his message to the Jewish people? What am I supposed to get out of this? And just stand there and think it through. If you're building a relationship with God, so then use that opportunity to recite and to think. Tell God what you feel. Use your words to convey your feelings and thoughts. God, I hate the situation we're in right now. I'm not thrilled with this. I recognize, God, that you run the world. I got it, loud and clear. But God, I want to take this and I want to feel you in my life more. God, maybe if I had more rachmanas towards people in my life, maybe you'd have more rachmanas for my life. Stop and think on Rosh Hashanah. What did I accomplish this year? What did I really accomplish this year? What am I really capable of accomplishing next year? Where am I going? And where am I now? You know, this is the theme of so many of the tefillos, so many of the prayers that we're going to recite on Rosh Hashanah. You know, we say, Zochreinu l'chayim, melechofetz b'chayim. We say, remember us for life, the King who desires life. V'kosveinu b'sefer hachayim, and write us in the book of life. L'mancha elokim chayim, for your sake, O God of life. And I'm sure many of you have never stopped to think, what's that doing in the place that it's in the Shemona Esrei? It's in the very beginning of the Amidah, in the bracha that deals with the Magen Avraham, the shield of Abraham, the bracha that deals with us identifying that we are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we identify with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The bracha that turns to God and praises him and says to God, you are the God that loves his children, remembers the kindness of his children to bring a salvation to his children. We stand in front of God and we say to him, God, if I have no other merits, then at least remember me that I identify with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's a critical beginning bracha of the Shemona Esrei of the Amidah. Our rabbis tell us that you're not allowed to ask for personal things in that bracha. That bracha is about establishing your relationship with God. Don't get the gimmies. And yet on Rosh Hashanah, what did our rabbis do? They instituted in that position, they instituted Zochreinu l'chayim, remember us for life. And I promise you, every person that says it squinches their eyes and they say, God, I want life. But that's not what we're meant to be doing there. It's not actually, according to many of our sages, it is not a request. It's a praise of God. It's a praise of God. God, you are the one who grants life. And therefore, I recognize your power. I recognize your enormity because you're the one who holds a life in your hands. I'm not asking. I'm praising and recognizing that when I later in the Shemona Esrei ask for life, what am I asking for? I'm asking for two things. I'm asking Lema'ancha Elokim Chaim, that God, I want to live for you and your sake. I want life not for me, not so I should be able to see another chasna, not to be able to see another grandchild, not so I should be able to see my own joy, but that I can live my life and continue to shape it and continue to shape my children Lema'ancha, for your sake. The Torah tells us, and you choose life. God places life in front of us and he says, choose life. Of course I'm going to choose life. No, what the Torah means is that we have to choose a meaningful life. And in this bracha, when we recognize that God is the king of the world, that God is the ruler of the world, we recognize that if we want to continue living, it's not just that we want to continue breathing. We really just want to continue living a meaningful life. A life where we can accomplish things, where we can become better people year by year. You know, when you're standing in shul, you don't have a lot of time to think about that. But when you're sitting at home for hours, even when you're down in shul this year, you're going to be done, you're going to have 5 extra hours at home. These are the thoughts that have to be raging through our minds. Ate b'chartonu, we say to God. You have chosen us. We say this every yontif. Ate b'chartonu mikol ha'amim. You have chosen us from all the other nations. V'romamtonu mikol ha'shonos. You lifted us up from all the other languages. You know what you're saying in that paragraph? God, you believe in me. That's why you chose me as your people. That's why you put me on this incredible team. God, if you believe in me, then I believe in me too. And we have to look at ourselves and say, look at the potential that I have. Look at the godless, the greatness that God saw in me and the greatness that lives inside of me. In the Unasana Tokef, we focus a lot on the Unasana Tokef part. We focus a lot on the Rabbi Amnon story. We focus on Rosh Hashanah Yikaseven, on Rosh Hashanah it's written of Yom Kippur Yechasemun, and on Yom Kippur it's sealed. Who's going to live? Who's going to die? We focus on that. But there's a line in here that is so powerful. We say that on this day, on Rosh Hashanah, everybody stands in front of God. And that V'yomru and the angels stand in front of God. V'yomru hine yom adin, and they say today is the yom adin. Lifkad al tzvamarim bedin, that God looks at all of his people. Kilo yisku be'enecha bedin. Because we're not going to be zoicha. We're not necessarily going to be automatically meritorious in his eyes in din. V'chol b'ay olam, and every single person in the world, yavrim lefanecha, will pass before you, kivnei moron. Kivnei moron, we're going to pass in front of God. What does kivnei moron mean? So look at the English translation in the Art Scroll. It says you're going to pass in front of God like sheep. Shkayach. What does that do for me, passing in front of God like sheep? The Talmud brings 3 interpretations of what it means, kivnei moron. The Talmud says like sheep, or the Talmud says that it's like climbers up a mountain path. And the Talmud says that kivnei moron gives a 3rd interpretation. It means like soldiers that walk in single file. Why do we need 3 metaphors? Like sheep, like climbers, like soldiers. It's not that you have a choice. Pick whichever one of the interpretations you like and go with it. No, you need all 3. Because why does a farmer why does a shepherd check his sheep? He's checking them to see if they're all there. He's checking them to make sure that they're still part of the flock, that they're healthy, that they still have the brand, they're still part of the group. And that's exactly what God's doing to us in Rosh Hashanah. He's checking in with us, making sure that we're still part of the group, making sure that we're still part of the flock, that we're still there. But he's also looking at us as climbers that climb up a steep mountain path. He wants to know, are we still growing? Are we still climbing? And he looks at us as soldiers. As a soldier reaches and develops his own unique talents and abilities, every single soldier has his task, has his job to do. God is looking at us and saying, are we honing ourselves like soldiers? Are we improving ourselves, making us better? Are we making ourselves, fortifying ourselves like a soldier fortifies himself? That's what's happening in Kibnei Maron. That's what we need to be thinking about in Rosh Hashanah. That's what we need to be using the precious moments, because when we think about it, it inspires our actions. And when on this Rosh Hashanah it inspires us, we have the ability to climb to places that we couldn't in a regular year because we don't have that fuel normally. But here we have that motivation, we have that fuel to lift ourselves up. I have so much more to plant inside of my head of thoughts that I need to be thinking about. When we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, we blow 100 blasts. Our rabbis say, why are we blowing 100 blasts? Because of the mother of Sisera. Sisera was a nasty general who was fighting against the Jewish people. He went to war with Devorah. And his mother was waiting for him to come back, and she realized that he delayed. And in the book of Shoftim, it says that she cried. Our rabbis tell us that she cried 100 tears. And those 100 tears are so powerful that they need to be counteracted. And we counteract them with 100 blasts of the shofar. And that's what we blow on Rosh Hashanah morning. We blow 100 blasts of the shofar. First of all, if you look at the psukim, it's really 101 cries that the mother made. And yet we're only blowing 100 blasts. And why do we have to counteract Sisera's mother's cries? Why were they powerful? She was a nasty lady crying about her nasty son. She was crying because she couldn't imagine that her son would be delayed, because she knew that he had such incredible power. He had the power of hatred, and that he was going to trounce the Jewish people. Why do we need to counteract anything that those tears might have accomplished? So our rabbis tell us a big yesod, a big principle. Even the lowest of tears, but they're coming from the worst of places, need to be counteracted. And we learn the koyach of the shofar, the koyach of tefillah, that they can counteract the rishus, the wickedness in the world. That when we blow that shofar, which is really just a cry from our hearts, we can destroy the wickedness. But that was only for 100 blasts. That first tear that she cried, that 101st, that we can't counteract so easily. Because that one was the tear of a mother crying about her yingle, crying about her son. And the tear of a mother for her child can never be counteracted. It can never be canceled out. And that, if that's true by the mother of Sisera, then can you imagine the tears of a Yiddish mama? Can you imagine the tears of a holy Jewish woman crying over her children, of what they can accomplish? When Mama Rachel cries over her children, and God wipes away her tears and says to her, stop crying, because the power that she has in those tears, the power of what she can accomplish and do, is something incredible. What's the koach, the power of a mother's tears, of a father's tears, of a tear of a Jew who cries sincerely for his brethren, who cries sincerely for his world? Karev Hashem l'chol karav. God is close to all those that call out to him. L'chol asher yikra'u be'emes. To all those that cry out to him in truth and honesty. That's the way a mama cries for her kids. That's the way a yid cries for Klal Yisrael. That's the way we cry for each other. And that's what we can accomplish. Emes. Real, truthful sincerity on Rosh Hashanah. I want to say two last things that I think that it's important, critical, that for those that can't go to shul, that you make arrangements to hear shofar. Even if we say that a woman is not necessarily obligated, she is obligated to hear shofar, even though it's a positive time-bound commandment, we should do whatever we can to get somebody to blow shofar for us. For those in La Jolla, if you're not planning on coming to shul, reach out to me. We will make it happen. We'll make sure that you hear shofar, because the shofar this year, every year it's critical. This year it's magnified. Because we're raw. Our emotions are raw. Our feelings are raw. Our desires to be heard by God are raw. And therefore that shofar can travel to places that normally you could never get to. Just a few pieces of advice. Things to do this Rosh Hashanah, as we're likely to have more time. So I mentioned a few of them. You know, the Mishnayos of Tractate Rosh Hashanah, there are 4 chapters. Take a chapter by each meal and elevate your meal. Sit and learn at each meal a chapter of Mishnayos. A little art school commentary in the Machzor. They even printed the Mishnayos. I just get a little taste and a little feel for living meaningfully, for not just eating brisket, but of giving that brisket a kedusha, giving it a holiness. Read Coronashana Tokef, as I mentioned. Take some of those ideas to heart. When you look on page 484, read that and weep. Emes, it's true. Ki atahu yitzram, you created them. You know their inclination, for they're like flesh and blood. A man's origin is from dust. His destiny is back to dust. At risk of his life, he earns his bread. He is likened to a broken shard, withering grass, fading flower, passing shade, a dissipating cloud, a blowing wind, flying dust, and a fleeting dream. Stop and think about that. What does that mean, and how does that affect the quality of my life and the way I live my days? Take a walk on Rosh Hashanah and look at the trees and stop and look at them and say, Ma Rabu Masech Hashem. How beautiful are your creations, God. And how lucky I am to be in this world. How lucky I am to benefit from your goodness and beauty. Knock on somebody's door on Rosh Hashanah. Caution them. Don't come out. I don't need you to come out. You can stand on the other side of the door. Be socially distant. But I just wanted to tell you I'm thinking about you. And I just wanted to wish you that you should have a beautiful year inscribed in the book of a meaningful life. Oh, you'll for sure change their lives. But you for sure will change your life. Sing Avinu Malkeinu. Do something you don't do in shul. See, when you sing Avinu Malkeinu on Sunday in shul, the tune, like it grabs the heart and it kvetches it. It does something amazing to the heart of a Jew. But stop and think about the words. That's why I happen not to like the song. Because it masks the words. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, Chanenu va'anenu, be gracious to us and answer us. Ki ein banu masim. Because we have nothing to show for ourselves. Asei imanu tzedakah, do righteousness, v'chesed, and kindness, v'hishienu. It's not just you're asking God to give you something you don't deserve, but it's reminding us to live our lives that way, to do things for people even if they don't deserve them, to do tzedakah, v'chesed, v'anenu, and answer them, and reach out to them and do something for them, even if they don't deserve it. Look out at the world and proclaim Hashem Melech, Hashem Molach, Hashem Yimloich Li'olam Va'ed. God is king. He was king. He is king. He will always be the ruler and king. And when we sincerely make that declaration, then our lives are lived in very different ways. This Rosh Hashanah, we have a chance to accomplish things that we were almost never delivered a chance like this. All we have to do is just utilize our time correctly on Rosh Hashanah. I want to end with one small, tiny thought. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't fantasize about Rosh Hashanah and say, oh, the rabbi was so beautiful. My Rosh Hashanah from start to finish, 48 hours, is going to be like some holy fest, like I'm standing on a mountain in Tibet. Man, I'm going to accomplish incredible spiritual things. Not going to happen. But if I say to myself, I'm going to accomplish one thing this Rosh Hashanah, I'm going to set out to make my mind clear on something. And if it takes me a minute to do that, or if it takes me 15 minutes to do that, whatever it takes. But when I finish that task, I have accomplished what I need to accomplish. And I have done Rosh Hashanah. And be happy with that. Be proud of the fact that you were able to accomplish something real, not just go to shul, not just daven, not just hear shofar, but to be able to move yourself inside. One movement inside is like light years of movement. And that's what we try to accomplish this Rosh Hashanah. To solidify that relationship with God, to solidify our place inside of this world, to justify our existence, and to justify why God keeps this world going year after year. May it be Hashem's will that each and every one of us, and each and every member of Klal Yisrael, and each and every citizen of the world is written and inscribed this year in the book of life. The book of life is not the book of another year. The book of life could be one more breath, but that it should be with meaning, and it should be with purpose, and it should be with beauty, and it should be with happiness. Amen.
Amen.
Hopefully some of these ideas will be able to kick around the head in Rosh Hashanah, and that it will in fact give us the most beautiful Rosh Hashanah, which will give us the most beautiful year.
It's very inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really wonderful to see everybody. Amazing mamish. And I miss those in Eretz Yisrael. And I actually miss those that are here also, because some of you I'm seeing on the screen, I haven't seen you yet. But in Mitzvah Hashem over Yantif, we'll have an opportunity to be able to see each other. And we should only hear good things. Next week, Monday night. So next week there will be class in Eretz Yisrael, my usual morning class, 8:45, 9:15. So next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, which is actually your time, Tuesday, Wednesday, your time, which is Monday night my time, Tuesday night my time, and then Wednesday night, Thursday. So again, next week Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday there will be class. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, beautiful.
Great, Rabbi. Thank you so much.
Okay, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
beautiful year.
Shana Tova U'Metuka.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done.
Happy
All
and
of
healthy New Year to everyone. Bye.
And thank you for going through.
Shana Tova.
Thank you very
Happy
much.
New Year.
Shana Tova, thank you very much.
Shana Tova.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Hi, Aaron. It's good to see you. We're going to see you over Yatif.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Couldn't miss it. Last year when I was in Israel, I was thinking I miss being with Rabbi Wohlgelernter.
Okay, we'll see you all.
Also Yom Kippur. Yeah, also Yom
Oh, wow.
Kippur.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.